independent human rights organisation, Suaram, is turning 25 this year. It was formed after Ops Lalang, when over 100 were detained under ISA. 25 years on, ISA is gone, but Suaram is still enduring. Could you tell us a bit about that? How are you keeping Suaram relevant?
Well, when it comes to detention without trial, we are still having the problems of detention without trial, even though the ISA is gone, because in 2012 the government legislated the Security Offences Special Measure Act, which allows for detention without trial for 28 days. And then last year, the government again amended the Prevention of Crime Act that allows similar provisions under the Internal Security Act for detention without trial indefinitely. So, so in that sense, although ISA is gone, but Suaram continues to work on detention without trial. But I think over the years, there has been also a lot of human rights violations that has been committed by the government, the law enforcement agencies, quite systematically and consistently, that we are seeing people being denied freedom of assembly to organize a peaceful assembly or protest. And then we have people being charged, for under Sedition Act, and it's a violation of freedom of expression. And then we have also very basic rights of to freedom of association, where we are seeing now, like for instance, Democratic Action Party (DAP) has been harassed by the Registrar of Society, including Suaram ourselves was also intimidated and harassed by the Registrar of Society when Suaram exposed the possible corruption in the purchase of the Scorpion submarine case. So I think all this reflect that human rights is still very much not protected by the government, even though it is guaranteed in the federal constitution. But we still need to continue to protect and defend human rights of the people.
So you're saying that despite ISA being repealed, that the challenges are still there?
Yes.
Or would you say it's greater now?
I think it is, in the sense, there has been some improvement, but there has been some regression as well in certain areas. So, I mean, if you look at the abolition of Internal Security Act, the emergency ordinance, it is an improvement, and we have to recognize that the government actually took the steps to abolish those draconian laws. But at the same time, I think because of the challenge posed by the opposition parties, as well as people are now demanding their rights, and this is reflected in the huge demonstrations that have been held in the past few years. Bersih 2.0, Himpunan Hijau, these are really big demonstrations, and people started to realize this is their rights and they are claiming their rights now. But I think because of this, the government probably also sees that that they might be losing so-called control of the people, and losing control of the speech of the people, as well as how they can actually express themselves in the streets. And that is why we are seeing now that the government introducing new laws to actually to restrict such rights, such as the Peaceful Assembly Act, that requires you to give 10 days notice, that ban rallies to move from one spot to another, and then to ban children from participating in peaceful assembly. So in a way, there has been some progress, but there has been some regression as well. And that is why Suaram needs to continue to work on human rights and continue to raise public awareness, to continue to defend, to get more people involved in the work of defending human rights. Yeah.
But in Malaysia, how dire is the situation right now in terms of human rights? How serious is it?
Okay, actually it's a very interesting area to look at, simply because I think the most fundamental issue that we face is democracy and freedom. And we talk about democracy and freedom, we are looking at a government formed through a process of democracy based on a constitution. And so we are just looking at the government and a constitution which allows the formation of the government. So once the government is formed, and to what extent can the government enact legislations in order for it to fall within the ambit of the constitution? So in this constitution, there's a segment called fundamental liberties. Fundamental liberties are the most crucial doctrine which provides and empowers people to determine what kind of government actually they desire to have. So once the government is in power, the constitution actually limits the government by various means. But all governments exploit, and all governments become oppressive, become corrupted, unless people themselves desire to change that government and make the government to become democratic and provide freedom with justice. So in that concept alone, Suaram is highly specialized to look at how the government actually violates civil and political rights. So the civil and political rights are the true doctrines upon which the human dignity is developed. So once we fail to monitor the government in the violations of civil and political rights, then we are doomed to see a developing of a dictatorship through which it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Someone is in power, they corrupt the people. By virtue of a corrupted system itself, they create corrupted leadership through which they enact legislations to govern, control, and perpetually contain a system which may maintain power for its own. So in Malaysia, it's a classic example of what has happened. So unfortunately, we have a system of divisions by ethnic-based parties, ethnic-based populace. Therefore, when someone seeking justice from a different ethnic group against a majority domain, they are simply labeled, because the use of ethnicity, race or religion, it becomes a populist way of oppressing and suppressing a kind of a spirit for greater democracy. But fortunately, like institutions like Suaram, when it came up, as you said, in Operasi Lalang, to the background to that, you can see how ethnicity actually played a role. So when Suaram came out to monitor civil and political rights, it was directly on the premises of human rights. So we took the declaration of the international human rights, the doctrines, the instruments, and thereafter various conventions, and we want the government, because Malaysia is very popular, it wants to be famous in every area, you know. So when the country is developing, they want to look at the international instruments. They want to say, oh, we have a good record for human rights. Well, that's good. This is where Suaram comes in to say that, hey, come on, don't bluff. This is how we monitor. See, we have been producing human rights report year after year. Like this is the 2012, the current year is coming out. So we publish every year, we document violations of civil and political rights, simply because if you get to look at the books like Why Nations Fail by it's a fantastic book. Actually, that's a great book our leaders should read. It focuses precisely on the failure of institutions, simply because the institutions fail to respect people's democratic right to protect civil and political rights. If the institutions, like for example, if Yap was mentioning some of the institutions like judiciary or the police force or even the government administration by various agencies, if these people actually failed in their duties by not actually looking at the constitution, like Peaceful Assembly Act for that matter, Sedition Act, some of these things are not in accordance with the constitution, which guarantees the fundamental rights, fundamental liberties. Therefore, there are some inconsistencies which they always call upon to say that for stability, we need to compromise human rights. But those are bullshit. Those are real bullshit. Actually, instability is created simply because you don't respect human rights.
Well, would you say that right now the problem goes beyond PN and Pakatan? It's beyond that, in the sense that it's sort of the system itself. So how do you sort of move forward? How do you approach both sides?
It's not an issue of Team A or Team B, which can which Suaram would like to see to be in power. What we would like to see in power is a government which respects people, and they should see people as a deciding force of what type of government they desire to have. It's a both way. The people who want to involve in party politics must completely fully understand that they chose to be in politics simply because there is a call upon them to chart a future direction for the nation, not to plunder the wealth of the nation. But if we do get leaders who want to plunder the wealth of the nation for their own benefit, for their cronies' benefit, then either party is no good for this country. This country ultimately can be only decided by good citizens who believe in fundamental liberties, who want to see the future growth of this country, which will ultimately benefit each and every child born on this soil.
But if the government fails to see that, how bad can it get for Malaysians?
You require, that's why it goes back to people, like for example, like Malaysia is interviewing people like us, and you carry on news which is supposed to bring about the truth and good journalism. If that is a practice we promote, and we have already seen the change in 2008, like what Yap was mentioning about the mass protests. You cannot stop people from protesting simply because you have power. No, people want truth, people want justice, people want the power given back to them. It won't last long. Ultimately, people will rise above all these things. But again, for that to happen, people should be educated, people should actually understand it's a cause worthwhile to fight, not for us, for the future generations. That's very important.
So on that note, what is Suaram doing to engage the people, to educate them, to tell them what's happening and how they can sort of improve things?
At the moment, in terms of public awareness raising, Suaram has been, like for instance, we have published this annual human rights report, and this goes to embassies, it goes to universities, it goes to NGOs, it goes to the government departments and the National Human Rights Commission and other agencies, including police. They also bought our human rights report.
So what's the response though? I mean, you're giving out all this information, but what's the response?
I think the response is has been very good. I mean, for instance, this report is publicly recognized the only annual human rights report produced by independent NGOs, yeah, and it has been a reference for many. And I think in terms of the progress, of course, I think if you look at the long term, yeah, if you look at in 1987 during the Operation Lalang, very few people actually dare to come out to organize a protest or even talk about the ISA because it was deemed as a very sensitive issues. But look at today's, that you have ISA actually abolished, you have people actually come out to protest against any injustices, against human rights violations, against corruption of the government. And I think this itself show a progress, a big progress of awareness among the general public in terms of human rights, and people are now realizing that they can exercise these rights, these are their rights, and the government's duty is actually to protect and promote this right and not to clamp down on these rights using all these draconian laws. And I think now people are, more and more people are getting involved, and then more people are stepping up to involve in the work of defending human rights. Yeah.
And you can see sometimes the excuses which are used are basically that it might cause instability or that it's a sensitive issue, like you said.
Yeah.
So how do you work around that? How do you make the people understand that it's not as sensitive, or people can discuss it without bringing instability?
That's actually actually for Malaysia it's a myth. Like for example, given our GDP and the fantastic growth that we experienced over the last 20 years, in terms of income per capita coming close to about 40,000 Malaysian ringgit per annum, that's very high. But on the context of the parliamentary replies to the questions on poverty, we noticed that almost 40% of the households in Malaysia are earning less than 3,000 ringgit, which is a rather a low level compared to, that means the kind of the segment of people living in with the low income is still very high, substantial, irrespective of the ethnicity, very high. That means when you talk about stability, growth and equitable distribution of wealth, then we should have had population at least should be on the reverse. For example, 40% should be on the upper side, and those in in poverty or living with earning low wages should be reduced to a segment of maybe about 10 or 15% or 20%. But 40% and another 40% and only 20% are higher level. It shows that the government's argument that for development and stability we need to compromise human rights, therefore we can have development, is completely skewed and is unreliable, and government has yet to prove that. And the Gini coefficient reading itself exceeding 0.44, which means to say that the increasing Gini coefficient indicating that the rich is getting richer and the poor is getting poorer, or the divide between the rich and the poor is widening. So these are indicators showing that the government policies actually failed, miserably failed to equitably distribute the national wealth in order for it to reach all segments across the board. Therefore, I don't see a kind of a distributive justice system in place, even given the new economic policy for this long. So therefore, the argument the government uses to compromise human rights is purely to maintain those in power, to be perpetually in power, and that is what's happening in Malaysia. So the government in power creates a system by which they want to sustain power, therefore they are refusing to allow the public to come out and defend their fundamental liberties in order for them to exercise the kind of government they want to elect. Like for example, the last election, 53% voted for the opposition, but the party with 47% of popular votes are running the government. That means there is a flaw in the whole electoral system. So why can't the government change these things? If a well-meaning government should address the root causes, put in place, and come out and say that, okay, we will run a proper government. We will run a government that befits people's aspirations. That's not happening in Malaysia.
But also, do you think that there needs to be a more mature discourse about these issues? Because when you bring up issues like this, it's very easy to sort of label you a communist because you want equality and all that, right? But how do you address the issues with facts? How do you do that?
That's why, you see, if you look at our annual reports are very, very precise to the information. Our annual whatever we are discussing today is documented, is well documented, even replies in the parliament, the replies by the government to the parliament questions releases this information. But the point is, when we want to translate this information into an awareness campaign through which people want to exercise, I think that you can see it of late. Like for example, the GST rally on the Labor Day, May 1st, is a remarkable rally. So people cannot be contained any longer to seek justice in Malaysia. So Suaram is really proud to be involved in this process over the last 25 years, being part of this process. I think we had hundreds and hundreds of human rights defenders in Malaysia who sacrificed, who worked hard, who actually fought to defend fundamental liberties.
So you've been doing this for now 25 years and you're going to celebrate it with the fundraiser. Tell us a bit about that. How does it work? It's a fundraiser and you're organizing it?
Yes. We are actually organizing a fundraising dinner on May 23rd. Okay. It's a Friday, and so basically we want to do this because we want to increase the the local resource, in support of human rights. And Malaysia, as a country that has been developing, and we are supposed to become a developed country in 2015. And so in that sense, the society is supposed to be mature enough to support human rights initiative and human rights organizations, human rights work locally. And Suaram being one of the oldest human rights organizations in Malaysia, we had been in the past years we have been relying on private and public funding for our work, but in the long run we see that in order to develop sustainably and continue to work on human rights, we need to develop the local support for human rights work. And that's why having this fundraising dinner is actually we target to raise 200,000 this year. This would be about half of our annual expenses, to cover our annual expenses, half of it. But I think the culture of donating for human rights is still not very much developed, and we want to cultivate that kind of culture. And this fundraising dinner serves a few purposes. So in terms of raising funds for the organization, but also through all these initiatives, we want to cultivate that kind of culture of donating for human rights, for the cause of justice, human rights and democracy in the country. Yeah.
So it's not true that you are funded by the Israelis?
No, definitely not.
A lot of times they assume that organizations like this have funders, but most of your money comes from the people.
Yes, now it has come from the people, and also of course in the past we also have funding from overseas, and these are from private and public foundations, but I think Suaram has always maintained the position that we are independent organizations. We do not toe the line of the donors, so we'll speak whatever we need to speak, and then we'll do whatever that is needed to promote and protect human rights. So in a way we are very careful about this. And we also want to have a more balanced kind of support from different donors, so that we are not being dictated by one particular donors. So I think that policy has been long-standing for Suaram, and we, of course, we also don't see a problem of getting foreign funding, because I think many governments, university, government departments also have collaboration with international communities, with international organizations, with foreign governments as well, and they are getting funding as well for a lot of developmental projects and things like that. So I think it is not wrong. Yeah, it is not a problem to get foreign funding, but I think the main issues is that whether you are able to maintain independence. Yeah.
So you've been at this for so long.
Yeah.
So how do you sort of keep true to your cause? How do you keep going? What do you tell yourselves when you continue doing this, despite the things you have to face and all that? How do you keep going?
It's of course the way you put that question is it's very difficult to answer as well, because we get tired along the way, because human rights is not something that you do it today and then you see the results tomorrow. It's something that we have to work on tirelessly. So there is a continuous surge of interest now in human rights. Like you can see that it's no longer like those days. It's very fluid now. People respond with immediate, like even you can see the commentaries when they read an article. They are very expressive of their views. So these are the symptoms where we see that people want to take ownership of the direction they want to take, and they seek justice most of the time. And when we see that kind of awareness being created among the readers, among the public, even in debates, and then fearlessly people coming forward to see, and no longer they are afraid of coming to the streets with you know the IGP saying that it's illegal, don't come, we'll arrest you, or harassment of civil servants. They are not concerned about all that, because for everything there is a price that people are willing to pay. When you stand up to face that situation, then we see that the spirit comes back to say that we want fundamental liberties and we want to fight for human rights. Like in 2012, the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, Suaram, selected Suaram as the best human rights organization in Malaysia, and they gave us an award and some money. So we are recognized by government institutions for that matter. And we have had dialogues with police, with the MACC, and even government institutions in order for them to dialogue and see how we can work together. We are not the enemy of the government, no, not at all. Government per se is an institution. What we are looking forward to see is how do we reform the institution so that it's consonant with human rights, it's consonant with constitution, it's consonant with international instruments. Therefore, we create a better platform for everybody. So in this process, the public who believes that Suaram should continue to function towards making this country a better place, a country with greater democracy, justice system and all that, I think they should come forward to support Suaram and donate to Suaram, so that Suaram can become an institution which they can feel proud of associating themselves with, so that it can elevate itself to a next platform, that it is organization for the people, by the people, to make a government for the people.
Let's talk about young people and their involvement with Suaram, because they are the future, and sooner or later you're going to pass.
Actually, we are now getting college students and all that to take up this area.
But how popular is Suaram among the youth of the country?
I think it has been quite popular, I would say. If you look at the, for instance, the May Day rally just passed recently, we posted a message on our Facebook on information about if you are being arrested by police, what should you do, who should you contact, because Suaram is providing this kind of support for people who are being detained by police and then harassed by police, and we have lawyers to provide support for this kind of situations. And that posting actually have 200,000 viewers to look at this Facebook posting by Suaram. And if we look at the internet users, it is a very young generation that are using the internet. And if you look at the demonstrations of Bersih 2.0 and Himpunan Hijau and the recently May Day rally, a lot of young people are actually involved in those peaceful assembly. So I would say quite a lot of young people are having access to Suaram and get acquainted with Suaram as well through this kind of channels. And of course, we also receive requests from universities, colleges requesting for organizing a training, human rights training, in the University of Colleges. So this is also another way that we are able to get acquainted with the younger generation, and they have been a source of new blood for not just for Suaram, but also I think for a lot of NGOs.
People do they have to book before, or can they do it when they arrive?
Yes. Actually, we are selling the tables.
Okay.
So there are 3 prizes. One is 1,000 per table with 10 seats, and then second is 5,000 and 10,000. And so public members, it is open for public members to buy the tables, and you can buy it through our website. You can use credit card to pay for the tables, or you can also come to our office to buy the tables.
Or you can donate.
And you can also donate as well. If you don't want to buy a dinner table, you can donate whatever amounts that you wish.